Hello everyone, welcome to this online lecture session of the course Engineering Thermodynamics. In the previous lecture, we had discussion on the gas power cycles, and in particular gas power cycles, we have dealt with the Brayton cycle. Okay, today we will be continuing our discussion on the same topic, and we will try to see some another type of gas power cycles which are particularly referred to as Otto, diesel and dual cycles. Okay, and such kind of cycles are very important for our reciprocating power producing machines. Okay, so let me first give you some brief introduction about the reciprocating engines. So in case of reciprocating engines, we are having some cylinder. So here you can see this black colored thick wall is nothing but it represents a cylinder. Okay, and inside this cylinder we are having one piston. So this is our piston, and this piston actually reciprocates inside the cylinder, and this piston is having some shaft over here. So this particular rod is actually referred to as connecting rod of the piston. So this is called as connecting rod. So this connecting rod is further coupled to some shaft, and that shaft actually rotates. Okay, so it's based on some mechanism. That mechanical arrangement actually converts reciprocating motion of the piston into rotational motion of the shaft. Okay, so in this piston cylinder arrangement, you can see we are having some two valves attached over here. So one of the valve is actually referred to as intake valve, and another valve is referred to as exhaust valve. Okay, so the meaning of intake and exhaust is that anything which will be coming through this valve, which will be coming into the cylinder, that will be entering through this intake valve. Okay, so while this valve will be moving in the downward direction, it will be creating some gap. So through this gap actually our gaseous medium which we want to enter into the cylinder, that we can make it come through this. Okay, and then similarly we have this exhaust valve. So once again, when the valve will be moving in the downward direction, we will be having creation of this gap, and through this gap actually from inside the cylinder our medium can go outside. Okay, now this piston does reciprocating motion inside this cylinder arrangement. So piston moves between some fixed limits. Okay, so the bottom limit of the piston is actually referred to as bottom dead center, BDC, and the maximum top limit of the piston motion is actually referred to as top dead center. Okay, and whatever the volume we are having, above top dead center, so this particular volume is actually referred to as clearance volume. Okay, so the volume which we are having above the top dead center, where our piston is actually not reaching, so the volume for between the topmost position of the piston and the cylinder top surface is actually referred to as clearance volume. Okay, and the distance which is maximum distance which is traveled by the piston, so maximum distance will be nothing but from bottom dead center to top dead center, that is actually referred to as stroke. Okay, so this is referred to as stroke of the piston. And the inner diameter of the cylinder, or in other words I can say the diameter of the piston, is actually referred to as bore. So diameter of the piston will be nearly equal to that of the inner diameter of the cylinder. There will be very minute clearance. Okay, so that diameter, inner diameter of the cylinder, is actually mainly referred to as bore, and diameter of the piston may be slightly less in comparison to diameter of the inner diameter of the cylinder, which is referred to as bore. Okay, while piston moves from bottom dead center to top dead center, it covers certain amount of volume in the cylinder. So that particular volume is referred to as displacement volume. Okay, so the volume which is covered by the piston while it is moving from bottom dead center to top dead center, that particular volume is actually referred to as nothing but displacement volume. Okay, now I have shown the representation over here. So over here you can see this shaded portion is basically nothing but our displacement volume. So this is our displacement volume. So this shaded region is only from the bottom dead center till top dead center. So this is my displacement volume. Okay, and then I have told you the volume encapsulated in between the top surface of the cylinder and topmost position of the piston is something which is referred to as clearance volume. So this is our clearance volume. Okay, now now you can see these are the different nomenclatures which are related to reciprocating engines. Reciprocating type of engines are very popular engines which are used in majority of automobiles. Okay, so these for producing the power inside the automobiles, basically reciprocating engine is actually the key component. Apart from automobiles, it is also having many other applications. For example, small generators for the production of electricity. Then we are having some agricultural equipment which are also driven by using the reciprocating engines. Okay, so they are very popular, and if we see the mode of operation of reciprocating engine is actually using two ways. So either our inside the engine, our fuel can be ignited by using one additional arrangement which we call as spark plug, or there can be self ignition of the fuel inside the reciprocating engine. Okay, so when we are having ignition by using spark plug, then we call our engines as SI engine. Okay, so SI engine is nothing but spark ignited, where we are having spark ignited fuel. So the engines where we are having spark ignited, so such kind of engines are referred to as SI engines, and CI engine is actually compression ignition based engines are referred to as CI engine. So major difference is that in one case we have to use some additional arrangement spark plug which will be actually igniting our air fuel mixture, and in second case our fuel will be actually having self ignition inside the cylinder. Okay, so this is the major key difference, and if you want to see in terms of practical uses what we use in our automobile, so petrol engine falls under the category of SI ignited engines, and diesel engines falls under the category of compression ignition engine. Okay, so we will see the subsequent details of these engines in our later slides. Okay, now what we are having, while if I show you one piston cylinder arrangement, let us consider this is my piston cylinder arrangement, and this is the position corresponding to top dead center, and this is the position corresponding to bottom dead center. Okay, one more important thing, in case of vertical piston cylinder arrangement we call top dead center and bottom dead center. In case of horizontal piston cylinder arrangement we also call it as outer dead center and inner dead center. Okay, so IDC and ODC. ODC referred to as outer dead center and IDC referred to as inner dead center. So that we mainly call in case of horizontal piston cylinder arrangement system. Okay, so now you can see this is my piston cylinder device. So let me consider that this piston cylinder device is actually reciprocating in between bottom dead center. So this is my bottom dead center VDC. So corresponding to bottom dead center we will be having maximum volume. Okay, and then we are having minimum volume corresponding to the top dead center, so which represents our clearance volume. Now I have considered that say one piston is reciprocating in between the bottom dead center and the top dead center. While it is reciprocating in between bottom dead center and top dead center, it is creating this kind of PV diagram. So if I plot the pressure volume diagram, so this kind of loop actually it has passed through. So this is the diagram which this particular device has given us. Okay, now what will be the amount of work done? From this diagram, you can see this piston cylinder device is nothing but a closed system. So for closed system, work done is equal to integral of PDV. So this will be the work done. That's why net amount of work done for this particular system, if this is our cycle, net amount of work done will be nothing but area encircled within this particular cycle. Okay, so area enclosed by the cycle will be our net amount of work done. Okay, so one important point in practical scenario, while our piston expands, during the expansion of the piston, means while piston moves in outward direction, gases are expanding. So while the piston moves in outward direction, at that time what happens in case of practical conditions, we are not having uniform pressure which is acting on the piston. Okay, so our pressure actually varies with volume. Okay, but if we consider a case of, let's say, during the expansion phase of the piston, we are having some hypothetical mean effective pressure, and that mean effective pressure is remaining constant during the entire stroke of the piston. Okay, so that we call as nothing but our mean effective pressure. This particular term is called as mean effective pressure, and the main use of this mean effective pressure is to compare different engines. Okay, so if we have to make the comparison in between the engines of different sizes, engines of different capacities, so under such scenarios we use this term mean effective pressure. Okay, so mean effective pressure is mainly used for comparing different engines. So what is the meaning of mean effective pressure? So whatever the work we are getting from the actual cycle, if we say that we are getting same amount of work, same amount of net work in between the piston stroke whenever it is moving from bottom dead center to top dead center. So during that stroke, if we are having some average value of pressure, that particular mean value of pressure is actually referred to as nothing but our that particular value of pressure is referred to as mean effective pressure. So I can write P MEP times Vmax. So volume corresponding to the bottom dead center is nothing but Vmax minus volume corresponding to the top dead center is nothing but Vmin. So our piston has traveled from top dead center to bottom dead center. So that's why it is covering the volume in the range Vmax to Vminimum. So I have written Vmax minus Vminimum. And if we are considering that we are having equivalent amount of work, whatever we have got from our actual cycle. So if we equate with that and take over here some average value of pressure, that we call as nothing but our mean effective pressure. So a representation of mean effective pressure is shown over here. So nothing but we have to keep bounds of V minimum and V maximum as same. But what we have to do, whatever the area we are having inside this cycle, same area we have to consider over here by obtaining some mean value of the pressure, and that we call as nothing but our mean effective pressure. Okay, now let me go to the next slide. So in the next slide, what we are having, I am first showing you the actual 4-stroke SI engine. So now let me take up first spark ignited engines. Okay, so how different processes happens inside our actual 4-stroke cycle, that let me show you. Okay. So
excuse me, sir.
Yes,
Sir, there is a beep sound, sir, that is disturbed.
so in case of actual 4-stroke SI engine, so you also know that if we see overall what happens inside our car engine, fresh air is actually taken into the cylinder from the atmosphere, and then we add certain amount of fuel, and that fuel is actually being ignited, and because of the ignition of the fuel, there is release of significant amount of energy that creates high pressure, high temperature gases, and these high pressure, high temperature gases then are acting on the piston, which expands our piston, and ultimately we are having production of power. And during the exhaust stroke, all these gases are actually taken out or sent to surroundings. Okay, so you might have seen there is one pipe which is referred to as exhaust pipe, and through that actually our exhaust gases or products of combustions are coming out. Okay, so let me now show what are the different stages inside this system. So what we are having one cylinder. So this outer boundary is nothing but cylinder, and here I have piston. Okay, so the very first stroke I am considering over here as compression stroke. So what is a stroke? Stroke, I have told you, the distance covered from bottom dead center to top dead center we call as nothing but our stroke. Okay, so now the first stroke which we are defining, we are calling it as compression stroke. Why we are calling it as compression stroke? Because during this stroke, we are moving from bottom dead center to top dead center. As we are moving from bottom dead center to top dead center, we are actually decreasing the volume. So as we are decreasing the volume, that's why we are calling it as nothing but our compression stroke. Okay. So what we are having in actual cycle, if I consider spark ignited cycle, so in case of spark ignition engines, what we do, while we are entering our air into the cylinder, we inject also certain amount of fuel in the intake manifold itself. Okay, so it is the mixture of air and fuel which enters into the cylinder. So in case of spark ignition engine, we will be having actually mixture of air and fuel into the cylinder. So inside the cylinder, we are having air plus fuel. It's a air plus fuel homogeneous mixture. Okay, then during this stroke, both the intake as well as the exhaust valve will be in closed position. So you can see both the valves are actually just attached to the cylinder top surface. So that's why both these valves are nothing but closed. Okay. So if both the valves are closed and we are having mixture of air and fuel, and what we are doing, we are actually doing the compression. Okay. We are moving from bottom dead center to top dead center. So what will be happening? Our volume will be decreasing and pressure will be increasing, because this is now acting like a closed chamber, because these valves are also closed. So we are not having any port or in any outlet available for the flow of the fluid. So that's why our cylinder will be in the completely closed situation, and air plus fuel mixture we are actually compressing, so its pressure will increase. Okay, so that is what we are representing on this diagram. So you can see this is my diagram. What I am highlighting over here, this stroke is referred to as, so you can see from bottom dead center, this line if I follow, I am going till this point. I am going till this point, till near to the top dead center. That stroke I call as nothing but my compression stroke. Okay, and when I am very close to the, when my piston is close to the top dead center, at that time we are having this spark plug over here. So this is our nothing but spark plug. So this spark plug will be igniting the homogeneous mixture of air and fuel, which we are having at high pressure and high temperature. So now we have increased the pressure. So because of increase of pressure, temperature will also increase. Okay, and now this high pressure, high temperature, whatever medium we are having, that medium we will be igniting with the help of spark plug. Okay, so now while we will be igniting the mixture of air and fuel, in case of spark ignition engine, because our mixture is homogeneous and we are having some external medium which is igniting the mixture of air and fuel, so that's why what we will be having, majority of the combustion we will be having inside our cylinder when piston is close to the top dead center only. Okay, so this is one very, very important point. When our piston is near to the top dead center, because our mixture is completely homogeneous, so that's why we will be having very instant combustion of the mixture, rapid combustion of the mixture. So because of the rapid combustion of the mixture, our piston will be close to the top dead center only, and at that time our entire air fuel mixture will be burning. Okay, so this is what is represented over here. So this is the point at which our ignition is actually starting. Okay, so once ignition is starting, as I told you, our combustion process is very rapid over here. Why it is rapid? Because we are having homogeneous mixture of air and fuel. Okay, so because of the rapid combustion process, combustion will be happening almost at the constant volume condition. So you can see our piston is close to top dead center only, and our majority of the combustion has happened. So majority of the combustion has happened when our piston is near to the top dead center only. Okay, and then this is the point where we are having end of combustion. So end of combustion means whatever the air fuel mixture we were having inside this cylinder and piston, that entirely air and fuel mixture has actually oxidized. Okay, so this will be an exothermic reaction and we will be having significant release of heat. So this significant release of heat has caused our pressure to increase very high. So because please mute your microphone. So with release of the significant amount of heat, what we will be having? We will be having actually increase in temperature of the gaseous medium, and that increase in temperature of the gaseous medium will actually increase the pressure. Okay, so we will be having significant increase in pressure. So that is what is represented over here. So that is what which is represented over here. So we are having significant increase of the pressure. Okay. Now, once we have combustion is done, so combustion is happening only at the constant volume condition while piston is close to the top dead center. After that, what we will be having now over this piston, we will be having very high pressure gas. So you can see over here, we will be having very high pressure which will be acting over the top surface of the piston. So when high pressure will be acting over the top surface, what we will be having? We will be having nothing but downward motion of the piston. So piston will be now completing, piston will be moving from top dead center to bottom dead center in the downward direction, and during this motion of the piston, actually our products of combustion which has created the high pressure inside the cylinder, these are acting on the piston. So this stroke is called as expansion stroke, because in this one our piston is moving in downward direction. But while our piston is moving in the downward direction, at that time our high pressure of the gases is acting on the piston. Okay, so that's why it is also called as power stroke. So this is the stroke which is responsible for production of power or extraction of heat energy into power energy from our this mechanical arrangement which we call as nothing but internal combustion engine or reciprocating engine. Okay, so this is the main stroke where we will be getting power. So now you can see while we are having this expansion, so you can see this is my expansion process over here, and while my high pressure gases will be expanding, our volume is actually increasing. So that's why we will be having nothing but decrease in, we will be having decrease in pressure. So that's why pressure is decreasing during this stroke. Okay, now somewhere while my piston is close to the, when my piston is close to the bottom dead center, at that time exhaust valve will be opening. So what we will be having? We will be having opening of the exhaust valve. So when the exhaust valve will be opening, what will be happening? Whatever the products of combustion we are having, these products of combustion will try to move in outward direction through this exhaust valve. Okay, and during this time, in order to remove the complete amount of exhaust, what we do? We also move piston from BDC to top dead center. So we move the piston from bottom dead center to top dead center in the upward direction. So as we will be moving in the piston in upward direction, so whatever the gases we are having inside this cylinder, all these gases will be actually moving out. Okay, so that process we call as nothing but exhaust process. So you can see at this point, this is the point where our exhaust valve has opened. So once exhaust valve will be opening, we will be having rapid decrease in pressure. So we will be having rapid decrease in pressure, and when our piston will move in upward direction from bottom dead center to top dead center, at that time we will be having all the exhaust gases which are remaining inside the cylinder, these will be going out. So these will be going out almost at the constant pressure, because whatever the high pressure gases we were having, these have suddenly gone out. So after that we are having small fraction of the gases. These small fraction of the gases now will be going out. We know that outside pressure is nothing but atmospheric pressure. So that's why during the exhaust stroke, the pressure inside the cylinder will be slightly higher than exhaust. Then only our gases can go out. So if this is my atmospheric pressure, then you can see my pressure is actually slightly more than the during the exhaust stroke, pressure inside cylinder is slightly more than the atmospheric pressure. Okay, once once our piston is close to the top dead center, at that time, then we will be closing this exhaust valve and we will be opening the intake valve. Okay, and through this intake valve, fresh mixture of air and fuel will be coming inside. Okay, so it means at this point we will be opening it, and once we are opening, then fresh mixture of air and fuel will be coming inside. So this is my intake stroke. Now the fresh mixture of air and fuel, so air outside is actually coming from atmosphere only. Okay, so it means the fresh mixture of air and fuel will come at atmospheric pressure from outside. So inside, if flow has to happen from outside to inside, so inside the piston cylinder arrangement, we should have pressure less than the atmospheric pressure. So that's why over here our pressure is actually slightly less in comparison to the atmospheric pressure. And as long as we are moving the piston in downward direction, that motion of piston in downward direction will actually create more vacuum, but that vacuum will be compensated by the addition of air and fuel mixture at the same rate. So that's why during this intake stroke, my pressure will remain constant. Okay, so this is my intake stroke over here. And after the intake stroke, once again, my cycle will be having compression and compression process, and it will once again complete this entire process. Okay, so during the intake stroke, my piston is moving from top dead center to bottom dead center in the downward direction, and my intake valve is open. Okay, so now in this cycle, if you see, so this is my overall cycle over here also on the PV diagram, and mechanically also you can see we started from the bottom dead center, and once again we are reaching till bottom dead center. Okay, so in this particular cycle you can see how many strokes were there. One was from bottom to top during the compression, so that is my one stroke. Second is from top to bottom during the expansion or power stroke. Then third is from bottom to top during the exhaust, and fourth is from top to bottom during the intake. So it means how many times piston is actually moving in between bottom dead center to top dead center. Piston is moving actually 4 times. So that's why we call such engine as nothing but our 4-stroke engine. Okay, and in these 4 strokes, if you see carefully what we are doing during this compression process, we are compressing our working medium which is there inside. So during this one, we have to provide certain amount of work. Okay, so we have to add work into our system. Then during this expansion process, what will be happening? High pressure gases are created. So these high pressure gases are actually acting on the piston. So this is actually our power stroke where power will be produced. Then during exhaust also we are moving the piston. So in this process also we have to provide certain amount of work. And during intake also we are moving the piston. So we have to provide certain amount of work. So out of these 4 strokes, if we see carefully, only we are getting power only in a single stroke. Okay, so this is the key feature, that out of all the 4 strokes, in case of 4-stroke engine, power only we are getting in a single stroke. Okay, now let me also tell you the mechanism how this works. So in case of if we see from the mechanical point of view, so this is my cylinder, then I will be having some piston. Okay, so this piston is having some rod. So this rod you can see over here. So this is called as nothing but our connecting rod. So this is our connecting rod. So this connecting rod is actually coupled to some shaft. So this particular shaft over here which I am having, this is actually called as crankshaft. So this shaft is called as crankshaft, and this crankshaft will be actually revolving. So this crankshaft will be revolving. So you can see while the crankshaft will be revolving, we will be having motion of the piston in the top and upward and downward direction. Okay, so this particular crankshaft actually is the output shaft at which we get power in terms of rotation of the shaft due to the combustion of fuel inside our piston cylinder arrangement. Okay, so we get over here finally the work in terms of the rotation work only, and finally that rotation work actually by using assembly of clutch, gearbox, propeller shaft, etc., is given to our wheels in case of automobiles. Okay. So now one important point you can see, while piston will be moving from top dead center to bottom dead center, during this one stroke of the piston, crank shaft will be covering a rotation of 180 degrees. Okay, so that is one very, very important point. During one stroke of piston, how many degrees this crankshaft will be covering? During one stroke of piston, crankshaft will be covering 180 degrees of rotation. So this is one very, very important point. So if you see this mechanism completely, so this will be coming in your next course, theory of machines. So in theory of machines, actually, you will be finding this kind of mechanism, which is referred to as slider crank mechanism. Okay, so this slider crank mechanism, you will be finding in this slider crank mechanism, for one stroke of the piston, for one movement of piston from top dead center to bottom dead center, crank shaft will be covering rotation of 180 degrees. Okay, so it means during this entire cycle, during this entire 4-stroke system, how many degrees we will be having? For 4 strokes, we will be having nothing but 180 degree into 4, and that will be our 720 degrees. So it means two revolutions of the crankshaft are required in order to complete one cycle in case of 4-stroke engine. So this is one important point, that for the 2 revolutions, we will be getting only a 1 complete cycle for 4-stroke engine. Okay. Now, one important point I would like to also tell you. So you can see over here that for 2 complete rotations, we are getting only single power stroke. So for 720 degrees, we are getting single power stroke. This is one important conclusion. Okay, in case of 4-stroke engine, for the 2 rotations of the crankshaft, we are getting only a single power stroke. Okay, so this is how our actual petrol engine, spark ignited engines work. Okay, but one important point I would like to highlight, if you compare this with the thermodynamic cycle, at this moment I cannot call it as thermodynamic cycle. Why? Because every time we are getting fresh amount of air and fuel mixture into the cylinder, and during the exhaust, we are sending out the exhaust out of the engine. So at the moment, I cannot call this as my thermodynamic cycle, because our working medium is not being passed in a cyclic manner. Okay, so our working medium is actually not operating in cyclic manner. Rather, what we are doing, we are sending out the egg products of combustion, and every time we are taking fresh mixture of air and fuel. So that's why these IC engines cannot be called as the thermodynamic cycles, but we take certain assumptions, whatever we have considered as the air standard assumptions, and after taking the air standard assumption, we try to make it close to some cycle, and that is actually our air standard Otto cycle. Okay, particularly for the case of SI engines. So what we will be now doing, we will be considering that we are not having any combination of air and fuel, rather we are having pure air which is coming into the cylinder. Apart from that, we will be removing this spark plug, and we will be considering that instead of the spark plug, we are having some source. From that source, external source, actually we are adding the heat into our engine. Okay, similarly for exhaust also, we will be considering that we are having some heat sink, and with the help of that heat sink, we are removing the heat, and so this is how we will try to bring back our medium to the original thermodynamic state. Okay, so let me show the Otto cycle over here. So this particular cycle was, so particularly the reciprocating engines was successfully demonstrated by Nicholas Otto in Germany. So after that, actually this SI engines are given as their thermodynamic cycle is actually specified as nothing but Otto cycle. Okay, So in case of Otto cycle, what we will be considering now, we will be considering only the 4 processes, and every time we will be considering that we are only having air inside our piston cylinder arrangement. So that's why you can see at every point of time I am showing only air. Okay. Then what we are having, you have seen previously that the first stroke we were having as nothing but compression. So here also we are taking the compression stroke from point number 1 to 2, but we are considering that we are having isentropic compression. So earlier, if you see, this was my compression process. So compression process almost can be closely approximated by using the isentropic compression. So that's why I am showing over here 1 to 2 process as nothing but my isentropic compression process. Okay. Then what I will be doing after that, you see over here in our actual cycle, we were having actually ignition of the and this ignition of the fuel were there almost at the constant volume condition. So I told you in our actual cycle, if I take SI engine, it can be approximated by constant volume process, because majority of the combustion will be taking place when piston is close to the top dead center. Okay. So that's why what I can do, I can consider my 2 to 3 process as nothing but process at which volume is constant, and we are adding some Qn amount of heat which is equivalent to that of the heat supplied by the fuel. Okay. So once we are adding the heat at the constant volume, what will be happening? We will be having increase in pressure and temperature of the medium. So this is what is represented over here. So you can see 2 to 3 process, we are adding the heat at constant volume and our pressure is actually increasing. Okay. Then 3 to 4 process, after we have added the heat, we were now having high pressure, high temperature medium inside. So that high pressure medium will be actually acting over the piston and it will be moving the piston in downward direction. Okay. So during this process, our gases are expanding over the piston. So we call this process as, we can now closely approximate it to an isentropic expansion process. So that's why 3 to 4 I have taken the isentropic expansion, and this is the actual process where we are getting power in our cycle. Okay, so this is responsible for producing the power. After that, we were having some exhaust stroke. So for the exhaust stroke, now we are taking one approximation that we will be keeping volume constant. So we will be keeping our piston only at the bottom dead center position. So when my piston is at the bottom dead center, then I will be rejecting the heat. I will be rejecting the heat from the working medium. So this Q out will be going out, and this Q out will be nothing but equivalent to that of the heat which could have lost if exhaust gases are going out. Okay, so that is what I can represent over here. 4 to 1 as constant volume heat rejection process. And once again, we will be controlling this amount of Q out such that we are able to reach to our initial thermodynamic state, state number 1. Okay. And after point number 4, once again, I can go to my starting point. So this is how I can closely approximate all the processes which are happening in our actual spark ignited engines. I can approximate all these processes by using this particular cycle, which we call as nothing but our Otto cycle. And now the key difference, you can see, we are not sending exhaust out. We are not taking the input of fresh air and fuel mixture. Rather, we are having a closed cylinder, and inside that, whatever the working medium we are having, we are creating such a situation so that working medium is actually operating in a thermodynamic cycle. So that's why Otto cycle, which is an ideal cycle for our SI engine, it is nothing but a thermodynamic cycle, whereas actual spark ignition engine is not a thermodynamic cycle. Okay. Now let me do the analysis of this particular Otto cycle. So what we are having, this 2 to 3 process as nothing but heat addition process. So I can write, and one more important thing, while we have approximated, so you can see we are now having cylinder piston arrangement and no mass is coming out and going, no mass is going out and coming in. So that's why we are not having any mass interaction over here. So this system can be closely approximated to that of our closed system. Okay. So for closed system, I can write delta Q minus delta W will be equal to du. Delta Q will be Q in. So because if I write this equation on per unit mass basis, I can simply write delta Q as say Q in minus delta W will be equal to integral P times dV, and that will be equal to nothing but U2 minus U1. So you can see over here for process 2 to 3 we are having constant volume, so that's why dV will be equal to 0, and finally I will be finding Q in as U2 minus U1, which I can write as CV times T2 minus T1. Similarly, if I see process number 4 to 1, for process number 4 to 1 we are having heat which is going out, so minus Q out will be nothing but equal to U1 minus U4, and finally I will be getting Q out. Here also work will be 0 because volume is constant, so Q out finally I will be finding as CV times T4 minus T1. Okay, now we know that our efficiency of the cycle is nothing but eta equal to 1 minus Q out divided by Q in. This is how I can define the efficiency for a cyclic process. Okay, so from here what will be happening, I can write eta as nothing but 1 minus CV times T4 minus T1 divided by CV times T2 minus T1. So what CV will be cancelling out, and if I take from the top T1 as common, and
so T3 minus T2.
Oh, I have written it wrongly. Yes, so I could have written it as, thanks for correcting, I could have written is as nothing but U3 minus U2. If I write U3 minus U2, it will be here T3 minus T2, and here also I will be having then in the heat input as nothing but T3 minus T2. Now if I take T1 as common in the numerator and T2 as common in the denominator, I'll be finding over here T4 by T1 minus 1 divided by T3 divided by T2 minus 1. Okay, so this is what I'll be getting for the efficiency. Now I have two processes, 1 to 2 as nothing but my isentropic compression, and 3 to 4 as my isentropic expansion. Okay, so I can write, so this is the same cycle on the TS diagram. So 1 to 2 is isentropic, that's why entropy is constant. 2 to 3 is constant volume heat addition. 3 to 4 is the isentropic expansion, and 4 to 1 is constant volume heat rejection. Okay, now what we will be I can do for process number 1 to 2, I can write TV power gamma minus 1 equal to constant. Okay, because it's an isentropic process, it means it is a reversible adiabatic process. Okay, so if I write TV power gamma minus 1 equal to constant, I can write T1 V1 gamma minus 1 equal to T2 V2 gamma minus 1. So from here I can find that T1 divided by T2 will be nothing but equal to V2 divided by V1 power gamma minus 1. Okay, now one important thing, if you carefully see your PV diagram, so point number 1 is corresponding to the bottom dead center. So at the bottom dead center we will be having actually total volume, and this volume will be equal to clearance volume plus displacement volume. Okay, so at the bottom dead center we will be having overall volume from the top surface of the cylinder to the bottom dead center, and that total volume will be nothing but sum of clearance volume plus displacement volume. And at the top dead center our volume, so this volume is our actually V1, and at the top dead center our volume is actually V2, and this is nothing but over here clearance volume. So this is our clearance volume, which is our V2 volume at the top dead center. So now we define one term for the engines, which we call as nothing but compression ratio. Okay, so compression ratio of the engine is one very important parameter, which is defined by symbol R, and it is defined as the ratio of total volume divided by clearance volume. So the ratio of total volume divided by clearance volume, so this total volume will be nothing but clearance volume plus displacement volume or stroke volume, or it is also called as swept volume. divided by clearance volume. So this is what we define as compression ratio. So now in this case, our volume V2 is nothing but, in this case, our total volume is nothing but V1, and volume V2 is our clearance volume. So that's why this ratio of V2 by V1 I can write as 1 by R. So from here I can write T1 by T2 as nothing but equal to 1 by R power gamma minus 1. Similarly, if I go for process number 3 to 4, for process number 3 to 4, I can write T3 V3 gamma minus 1 equal to T4 V4 gamma minus 1. Okay, so from here I can say that T3 by T4, from here I can say that T3 by T4 is nothing but equal to V4 by V3 gamma minus 1. Okay, so if you see this figure carefully, V3 is once again equal to V2 and V4 is once again equal to V1. So V3 is equal to V2. So V3 I can write V2 I can write V1, and V3 I can write V2. So it is V1 by V2 power gamma minus nothing but equal to R power gamma minus 1. Okay, now if you compare these two equations, say this is my equation number 1 and this is my equation number 2. If you compare equation 1 and 2, you can say that T1 by T2 will be equal to nothing but T4 by T3. So this I can write from here if you compare 1 and 2. So I can say that T1 by T2 is nothing but T4 by T3. So from here I can write T1 by T4. I can write T1 by T4 will be equal to T2 by T3. So this I can write from here that T1 by T4 equal to T2 by T3. So now if you see the previous formulation of efficiency, we are having T4 by T1 ratio over here and T3 by T2 ratio over here. So these ratios are nothing but same. So if these ratios are same, this will be cancelling out. So finally I will be getting efficiency. I will be getting efficiency of Otto cycle as nothing but equal to 1 minus I have over here T1 divided by T2. So 1 minus T1 divided by T2, and T1 by T2 I have nothing but 1 by R power gamma minus 1. So efficiency of Otto cycle I can say 1 minus 1 divided by R2 power gamma minus 1. So if we are considering the air standard assumptions, in case of air standard assumptions, what we will be having, our gamma will be nothing but equal to 1.4 for air. Okay, because we are considering the our working medium as nothing but air. So it means here you can see that efficiency of Otto cycle significantly depends upon the R, which is our compression ratio of the engine, and gamma minus 1, where gamma is actually our ratio of specific heats. So this is a typical plot for efficiency of the cycle. So this is efficiency of Otto cycle as function of compression ratio. So you can see when you are increasing the compression ratio somewhere up to 7 or 8, we are having actually significant improvement in the efficiency, and beyond this compression ratio of 8, our increase in efficiency rate at which increase of efficiency is happening, that rate has actually decreased. Okay, and this is 7 to 12, 13. This is the typical range of compression ratio which is used in our gasoline engines. Gasoline engines are nothing but our petrol engines. Okay, so petrol fuel is called as gasoline fuel. So our spark ignited engines, where we are having petrol or gasoline as fuel, for these engines our range of typical range of compression ratio is actually this one. Okay, and now if you see if you plot this efficiency of the Otto cycle against compression ratio for different values of gamma, so you can see if you take monoatomic gas, if you take some monoatomic gas for which value of gamma, so this K over here is nothing but gamma. So for monoatomic gas with the larger value of gamma, you will be having more efficiency. And if you take some heavy gases like carbon dioxide, which are having less value of CO2, which are having less value of gamma, their actually efficiency will be decreasing, and gamma equal to 1.4 is corresponding to air. Okay, Now, one important point here I would like to highlight, that we are able to see over here that upon increase of the compression ratio, we can improve the efficiency. But still, why we are not increasing the efficiency, why we are not going for the higher value of the compression ratio in case of gasoline engines or auto cycle based engines. Okay, so in case of gasoline engines, if you see at the practical scenario, I have told you that we are having mixture of air and fuel inside the cylinder. Okay, so once we are having mixture of air and fuel, if we are going for very high value of compression ratio, ultimately what will be happening, that mixture, the temperature of the medium will be increasing, pressure and temperature, and it may happen that temperature of the medium is reaching to the auto ignition temperature of the fuel. So at that point, irrespective of the spark, there may be many flame fronts from where actually auto ignition of the mixture of air and fuel will be starting. Okay, so because of these multiple combustion fronts, we will be finding that our engine will be creating some noise, and its performance will be actually going down. So that kind of noise and is actually detrimental for the life of the engine also, and this is referred to as engine knock. So engine knock is one characteristic where we are having auto ignition of the fuel into our gasoline engines, and then these auto ignited flame fronts, while these propagate in different directions and then interact with each other, they create some noise and also decreases the performance of the machine and also detrimental for the life of the engine. Okay, so such type of phenomenon are referred to as engine knock, and in order to avoid the engine knock, what we do, we don't operate our petrol engine at very high value of compression ratio, so we limit our temperatures. So our compression ratios are basically limited by the temperature condition, and our temperature should be less in comparison to the auto ignition temperature of the fuel. Okay, now I will stop at this point and we will have further discussion in our next lecture.